Think the history books told you the age of reptiles ended 66 million years ago. The history books were wrong. We were taught a simple story. The asteroid struck. The dinosaurs died. Mammals inherited the Earth. But for the next 50 million years, the largest predators walking on land were not mammals. They were 33-foot reptiles that weighed 1,720 kilograms. 4 times heavier than a polar bear. Longer than a school bus. And they did not swim. They ran. You think you know what a crocodile is? A sluggish ambush hunter. A patient log floating in murky water. But the cebicids abandoned that blueprint. They grew legs that lifted their bodies off the ground. They evolved skulls built for slicing, not drowning. They became something evolution was never supposed to allow. Terrestrial dragons. Apex predators on solid Earth. And here is the paradox that should disturb you. How did a lineage built for swamps, for floating motionless in murky water, evolve into the fastest, most efficient terrestrial killing machine since the Tyrannosaurus rex itself? The answer begins with a number. 25 kilograms. This was the weight that separated the survivors from the dead when the sky fell. Everything above that threshold starved in the nuclear winter. Everything below it squeezed through the extinction sieve. The ancestors of the cebicids weighed 9 kilograms. Small enough to live on carrion. On rotting flesh. On the scraps of a dying world. They did not fight the apocalypse. They waited. And when the smoke cleared, they found a world emptied of competition. The dinosaurs were gone. The ecological thrones sat vacant. And in that void, these swamp-born survivors began to grow. To change. To build themselves into something the post-asteroid world had never seen. But understanding what made the Baronosuchus the apex predator of the Eocene requires looking inside it. At the machinery that evolution was never supposed to build. Consider the architecture of motion. A modern crocodile sprawls. Its legs splay outward like training wheels, dragging its belly across mud. This posture works in water. It fails on land. The cebicids solved this problem with engineering. Their legs did not sprawl. They erected. Positioned directly beneath the body like the pillars of a bridge. High-clearance suspension designed for terrestrial pursuit. These were not swamp crawlers. These were biological monster trucks built for open plains. Built for chasing down prey across distances no modern crocodilian could cover. The tail changed too. In aquatic crocodiles, the tail is a paddle. A lateral propulsion system for water. But the cebicids had no use for swimming. Their tails became rounded counterbalance beams. Rudders for land-based agility. Stabilizers that allowed a 1,700 kilogram predator to corner at speed without toppling. But raw mass and running legs were not what made the cebicids terrifying. That distinction belongs to what sat at the front of the skull. The snout of a Baronosuchus was not wide and flat like a modern crocodile's. It was deep. Vertically oriented. A biological guillotine frame with massive muscle attachment points running along its height. This was not a skull designed to hold prey underwater until it drowned. This was a skull designed to cut. Ziphidont teeth lined the jaws. Blade-like. Serrated. Each tooth covered in rounded protrusions called denticles. These were not crushing instruments. These were the steak knives of the Eocene. Industrial shear blades that used microfractures to bypass the physical resistance of flesh. They did not bite to hold. They bit to slice. And here is where evolution reveals its strangest convergence. These teeth were structurally identical to the teeth of a Tyrannosaurus rex. 2 lineages. Separated by over 100 million years of evolution. One a dinosaur. One a crocodile relative. And yet, both arrived at the exact same dental architecture. The same serrations. The same denticles. The same meat processing mechanism. Because when nature finds a solution that works, it builds it again. A single denticle. Smaller than a grain of rice. Under magnification, you see the clefts. The ridges. Each one a microsaw designed to initiate tearing at the cellular level. The Baronosuchus did not need to shake its prey like a crocodile does. A single bite created cascading tissue failure. The flesh opened itself. But teeth and legs do not explain survival. They do not explain how this lineage walked out of an apocalypse that killed 75% of all species on Earth. The answer returns to that number. 25 kilograms. When the Chicxulub asteroid struck, it did not just kill with impact. It killed with aftermath. Dust blocked the sun for years. Photosynthesis collapsed. Food chains shattered from the bottom up. The giants starved first. Anything over 25 kilograms could not find enough calories to survive the darkness. But the Sebasid ancestors were small. 9 kilograms. Slow metabolism. Cold-blooded. They could survive on scraps. On carrion. On the rotting corpses of the fallen titans. They squeezed through the extinction sieve. And once through, they found the other side empty. In 500,000 years, a blink in geological time, they tripled in size. In 10 million years, they were titans. The Baronosuchus reached 1,720 kilograms not because it outcompete anything. It grew because nothing remained to stop it. The ecological space was vacant. And the Sebasids filled it. For 50 million years, this formula worked. They ruled South America as the unquestioned apex predators. Mammals remained small. Prey-sized. Because anything larger was eaten before it could evolve. Until the environment itself turned against them. The Andes did not rise quickly. They grew at the rate of fingernails. Millimeters per year. But across millions of years, they became a wall. A wall that blocked rain. That strangled rivers. That dried the wetlands where the Sebasids hunted. This is the ghost of the Andes. The idea that a rising mountain range can be a more effective killer than an asteroid. You would not hear the Baronosuchus approach. You would feel it. Infrasonic vibrations through the ground. The rhythm of 1,700 kilograms moving at hunting speed. A tremor in the earth before you saw the shape emerge from the tree line. Skin like light armor. Scaly, yes, but flexible. Built for thermal regulation under equatorial sun. Built for explosive sprints. Osteoderms beneath the surface. Natural ballistic plating fused to the skeleton. Eyes set forward. Not to the sides like its aquatic cousins. Binocular vision. Depth perception tuned for tracking horizontal movement. The panicked run of fleeing prey. The reptile lineage that produced the Sebasids is 312 million years old. Older than the dinosaurs. Older than the supercontinent Pangaea. They watched the rise and fall of the great saurians. They watched the asteroid strike. They watched the world burn. And they walked through the fire. For 50 million years, they were perfect. And then, over 5 million years, they vanished. Not because a better predator, they dominated. They reached 1,720 kilograms. And at that size, they needed massive prey bases. They needed river systems. They needed wetlands that the rising Andes slowly, invisibly, erased. The very trait that saved them in the apocalypse planted the seed of their extinction. Survival is not permanent. It is borrowed. The Sebasids did not fail. They were not outcompete. They were simply standing in the wrong place when the world moved. They could not see the threat because it moved slower than perception. And neither can we. If the most perfect land predator in Earth's history was erased by a mountain range moving a few millimeters a year, what invisible geological clock is ticking for us?